Super Metroid, a game famous for its groundbreaking world design and infamous for its brutally technical speedruns. And by combining the technical skill of speedrunners with the open level design of the game, nearly anything becomes possible, including beating the game backwards. Upon first hearing this, I thought surely this must be impossible, taking the 4 main bosses and defeating them in the reverse intended order. So that's why I invited Shiny Zeni, the current world record holder for this reverse boss order speedrun, and Zoast, a legend in the Super Metroid community, to help show me exactly how speedrunners beat Super Metroid backwards. But before we start the run, we first need to set the ground rules for what is and is not allowed in a run like this.
So the first thing I'll say about reverse boss order in Super Metroid is we don't actually kill Mother Brain first. We focus on killing the main prerequisite bosses and then going to the end and killing Mother Brain. There's a couple reasons for this. The main one is glitch related. Essentially, there is a way to kill Mother Brain first, but in order to make it happen, you have to go out of bounds, which generally doesn't fit into the no major glitches rule set. The main rules are no going out of bounds, no corrupting memory, and no using debug codes.
So yeah, not only is this a reverse boss order speedrun, it's also done without any major glitches. And it's only possible due to speedrunners performing a series of tricks you would never see in a normal speedrun. But before that, first runners do follow a pretty standard route at the beginning of the run. They escape the series station, they collect the morph ball, which lets Samus fit into tight spaces, and they also collect the first missiles so they can open these pink doors, as well as do lots of damage very quickly. But instead of immediately going to the first Chozo statue and collecting bombs, they instead perform one of the most difficult speedrun tricks I have ever seen, and I'll let Zeni explain more from here.
After we get the missiles, we actually don't go straight to Bomb Chorizo. And the way that works is by grabbing an energy tank that is in the ceiling of a room right next to where you get the first missiles. That energy tank, the method to grab it was originally thought to be TAS only. It's a triple frame perfect trick with a coin flip at the end.
Oh god.
Yeah. Long story short, I became kind of obsessed with this trick and I developed a bunch of cues for how it works and I got semi-consistent at it, and then I decided I would do something terrible and put it in this run. Reason being that it saves about 40 seconds if you do it right at the beginning. This is the trick right here. We call it Taco Tank. I got it first try.
Nice.
Which is absurd. Essentially, you have to have exactly 3 frames of dash speed and then you need to jump. Then you need to do a wall jump at the correct position, which is also frame perfect. And then once you get up to the ceiling, you have to aim down, which compresses her hitbox. And then you have to expand her hitbox back into a normal size when you're perfectly positioned underneath the energy tank. And that is the 3rd frame perfect part of the trick.
And the coin flip part.
Yeah, so the coin flip is the game can only detect that Samus is touching 1 tile at a time. So if she is standing on 2 tiles, what it does is it basically goes back and forth saying, okay, right now she's on the left, now she's on the right, now she's on the left. And it just oscillates that way. If you happen to extend your hitbox underneath the energy tank on a frame that it would detect a collision with the tile to the right of the energy tank, then what happens is you just hit the ceiling and fall instead of actually grabbing the item. So.
Oh, wow. That's very silly.
I was going to say, to zoom out a little bit, a lot of these pickups, anything we're routing in, is all leading up to Ridley. You need the energy and the ammo. Everything sort of revolves around surviving Ridley here, as far as all the pickups, and this energy tank happens to be a faster pickup than any other ones.
Yeah, so it turns out Super Metroid speedrunners are just built different. They aren't afraid of putting triple frame perfect tricks into their speedruns, just to save some time. And runners aren't done yet performing tricks to collect these items earlier than intended. Runners perform a mock ball in this room to preserve Samus's running speed while in ball form. This is so they can barely slip under these gates and collect 2 extra items, a reserve tank as well as the super missiles. Reserve tanks help store extra energy that Samus can access whenever she wants, and super missiles are powered up versions of missiles that open green doors as well as do extra damage.
Like Zoast said, pretty much every item that we're grabbing at this point in the run is to make the Ridley fight or the Norfair segment possible and or faster.
And the tricks don't stop here. The lower portion of Brinstar has a lot more collectible items that runners want to get, but they are locked behind these blocks that are only broken by power bombs. And the first spot to get power bombs the intended way is all the way over here. So instead of getting those power bombs, runners have another way that they can clip through these blocks and collect the items that they need, using a trick that was discovered relatively recently called moonfalling.
So just to summarize what a moonfall is, if you jump out of a moonwalk animation, the game under underflows Samus's fall speed and basically uncaps it. So at this specific section of the run, you'll notice I'm bombing out the blocks in the middle here instead of next to the floor like we would in virtually every other category. The reason for that is because we are setting up these blocks in a very specific way that we're going to get stuck in the blocks, and then we're going to do a series of moonfalls, and the way that Samus is stuck in these blocks makes it so that her fall speed just gets faster and faster and faster. So I'm doing a bunch of moonfalls to the right here, and as you can see, she's kind of like dancing back and forth, so that's why we call it moon dance.
So every time we're seeing Samus turn around, you're essentially doing another jump, which then helps increase the fall speed, even though you're stuck up against this block.
Correct. So Samus clipped down through the block there. The reason she clipped down through the block is because she was falling so fast that the game just ignored the collision detection there. Now she has enough fall speed that she can clip through a single tile vertically if she does another moonfall. So here, there's just one tile of floor where she's standing. What we do is we come over here and then we do one more moonfall and she clips through the floor like that. So that allows us to break down into this area down here.
And again, this whole area just has like a lot of useful items that are going to be important for getting to Ridley and surviving.
Exactly. Yep.
Especially the super missile. Super missile is like the #1 pickup that you would like to have.
Yeah, super missiles do double damage to Ridley specifically. And so every super missile pack that you can grab is going to be hugely beneficial.
While down here, runners collect more super missiles, another energy tank, and power bombs. But they aren't done yet performing more tricks to collect even more resources.
Behind these blocks, there's a super missile block, which normally we would be coming from the other side. And you can't just fire a super missile in this space to break the block that's there. You have to do it from a very specific position. It's not super hard to do if you know how to do it, but if you don't, like, you can't just fire a super missile in there and expect it to work. And again, super missiles are probably the most valuable resource in this run. If we have access to a super missile pack, we're going to grab it. So from here, we're going to come up into this room. This is also pretty interesting. I kill these enemies and then I open the door, and then I'm going to jump into the door, and then I'm going to jump and turn around and fire a super missile diagonally upright. The reason for that is actually because there's a gate up here, which normally you'd have to have wave beam to trigger the button on the other side of the gate. But if we fire the super missile from that specific position down on the left side of the room, it'll just clip through the gate and hit the switch. So
nice, yeah.
And right here, there's another energy tank.
Yeah, it's so cool that there's so many different like small tricks to get around these like obstacles to just gain extra resources early in the game.
And that's one of the coolest things about reverse boss order is it showcases a lot of little tricks that you wouldn't normally see in the other like main categories.
It also really highlights the open-endedness of this game in general.
Runners then collect Charge Beam, which lets Samus charge up an even more powerful shot, as well as these power bombs. Runners then make their way down the red tower and grab the Spazer Beam upgrade, which increases Samus's damage. And then finally, runners enter Norfair. And this is where they start to feel the heat, as the difficulty only gets harder from here, as runners need to collect even more items.
All right, so we're coming down to Norfair. As you go through the game casually and you defeat bosses, Samus gets suit upgrades. The first suit upgrade that you would normally get is Varia suit, and it is locked behind Kraid. In reverse boss order, we kill Kraid last, which means that we never grab Varia suit. Varia suit is beneficial for two reasons. It reduces overall damage by 50%, and it protects you from environmental heat damage. So since we don't have Varia suit, anytime that we're in a heated room, we're going to be taking constant damage. And Norfair is full of heated rooms.
Traversing these rooms while taking damage the entire time is called a hell run, and some of these hell runs later on are incredibly difficult, with no room for error. But thankfully, runners are pretty chill about this first one, as they make their way to the ice beam.
So right here, we're going to do another mock ball to get under this gate. We are going to collect Ice Beam here.
How important is Ice Beam in a run like this?
Extremely. Ice Beam not only increases your damage output, but it also allows you to freeze enemies, which can be used as platforms, for example.
Okay.
And then also at the end of the run, if you don't have Ice Beam, the Metroids are much more of a pain to kill.
Much slower too, so like there's never a category unless you have to skip Ice Beam that you would want to for speed.
Hell runs can be really stressful. This one isn't too bad right here. I mean, you see I still had more than half my energy left, but the later into the run we get, the more stressful the hell runs get.
Runners then continue collecting key items in Norfair, like high jump boots, which lets Samus jump higher and faster than normal. These boots will become very crucial for making some jumps in the later sections of the run. They then perform another hell run that takes them to the speed booster reflector upgrade. This lets Samus run faster and faster until she glows blue. From here you can crouch to store a shine spark, which is a very useful movement option that lets Samus fly across rooms while doing big damage. And then they finally grab the wave beam item. This lets Samus shoot through walls as well as upgrade Samus's beam to do even more damage.
From here, what we're going to do is we're going to go down and visit a mini boss that we wouldn't normally visit in most of the other major categories. So this is Crocomire. He's considered a mini boss. The reason that we come down here and fight this guy at all is one, because there's an energy tank down here, but more importantly, this is how we get to grapple beam, which it's extremely helpful.
The Crocomire fight is pretty simple. Runners just blast him whenever he opens his mouth, and then he falls into the lava.
Now we're gonna go grab grapple beam. Grapple beam is very useful in reverse boss order for reasons that you might not expect. Normally, grapple beam is just used to grapple onto enemies or grapple blocks to swing around rooms. But grapple beam can also be used to pick up items from a distance, and that is extremely useful in Lower Norfair for farming. Also, when we get to Meridia, grapple beam is going to be very useful for moving through that area faster.
At this point, runners have spent over 20 minutes collecting all sorts of items and upgrades, and they take none of them for granted, using all the tricks in the book to get through these difficult hell runs.
So here we're going to use grapple to swing across this room. This is probably the first really super stressful part of the run. This next room is referred to as Lava Dive. This is the entrance to Lower Norfair, and normally to get through this room you're supposed to have gravity suit and space jump, which we have neither. So we're taking constant heat damage and constant lava damage, and we have to get through here without dying. So as you can see, our energy is pretty much empty, and now we're going to do something. This is called a Crystal Flash. Crystal Flash uses 10 missiles, 10 super missiles, and 10 power bombs, in addition to one power bomb that you have to lay to activate it. After laying the power bomb, you hold L and R and shoot and down, and you wait for a period of time, and then Samus will appear in an orb, and it trades all of those resources for energy, which is super cool and super convenient for a run like this. The resources that we grabbed, the missiles and the super missiles and the power bombs, they are helpful for killing Ridley, but they're also necessary to get through this part of the game, because if you don't have enough resources, you can't Crystal Flash and restore your energy.
I find it amazing that speedrunners whip out secret strategy guide level tech in order to exchange their ammo for health. But even with the tips from the Nintendo Help hotline, we aren't out of hell yet. In fact, we just entered Lower Norfair. This entire area is heated, so runners basically have no downtime as they must quickly maneuver through this area, making sure to keep their energy up while still collecting more items before they can face off with Ridley.
Alright, so we were taking heat damage down that entire elevator ride.
Yeah, I was gonna say the UI wasn't updating, but I was hearing the ticking in the background.
And then right here, we're gonna come down, and then like in any percent we would go to the right, but we're actually gonna go to the left. We're going to perform what's called a gate glitch here. So it's either a 1 frame or a 2 frame window. Basically, you just need to shoot a super missile with a certain amount of speed and the correct position, and it will go through the gate and hit the switch on the other side. And then here we're grabbing Screw Attack. There are people that think that it's unnecessary and that skipping it would be faster in the long run. Even just factoring movement in Norfair, it kind of makes up for itself with stuff like Key Hunters, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, and this super missile is huge too that you get over here.
So it's just convenient to pick up, and it helps speed things up a lot.
If you didn't get it, it would make an already very difficult run like twice as difficult.
And like Zoe said, the other reason that we're coming down here, we come into this room, this is where Golden Chorizo is. The only reason we come in here is because there's super missiles right here that we need. If we didn't need these super missiles, we wouldn't come in here, because it's a pretty, I mean, it's not huge, but it's a time sink to come in here. You can't leave until you kill him. This was one of the biggest time saves that Spazer afforded, because if you didn't have Spazer, you'd have to use even more super missiles to kill him.
And that's more time spent farming to get super missiles back, yeah.
Exactly. And then as you saw, like, we just killed all of those enemies with Screw Attack. If we didn't have Screw Attack, we would have to avoid all of those enemies instead of killing them. And avoiding them takes more time to get through the room. So again, it's just one of those things where, like, yes, like grabbing Screw Attack takes time, but it enables you to move much faster, which in the end saves a lot of time because of energy conservation and stuff like that. So these enemies are called Key Hunters. They're in the way, and we would have to basically wait for them to be out of the way if we didn't have Screw Attack.
He's also saving time by killing 2 of them, because these 2 power bombs are going to lag way less than if you didn't kill any of these enemies.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about the power powerbomb lag, speedrunners have optimized nearly every aspect of this run, reducing the lag from having too many enemies on screen, as well as efficiently farming resources off these respawning enemies. And with this being the last chance before Ridley, and with Samus's health swiftly ticking down, runners can't afford to make any mistakes during this section.
So obviously our energy is very low at this point. We're almost empty. This room on the left is Ridley. So we need to have as many resources as possible to survive the Ridley fight. And we're going to position ourselves on this platform here, specifically to farm these bugs as they respawn. We shoot them with grapple beam to kill them, and then we collect their drops. The other thing is we need to use a crystal flash to get our energy back up, because that's going to be much faster than just trying to farm the energy all the way back up. Now our ammunition resources are lower, and we need to get those up as much as possible. The main thing that we need here is full supers.
Finally, about 30 minutes into the run, the showdown with Ridley begins, and this fight is a whirlwind of precision and efficiency as speedrunners are unable to make a single mistake, or else they risk losing the run here.
Okay, so this is the Ridley fight. Probably the best way to summarize is we disabled 2 of our beams, Ice Beam and Spazer Beam. The reason that we did that was so that we would have only Wave Beam equipped. If you have just a single beam equipped and then you have power bombs equipped and you hold a charge, after a period of time, a special beam attack will come out. The one for Wave Beam is referred to as X Factor. X Factors have 4 different particles that come on screen. Each one of those particles does the equivalent of 300 damage. We're going to do 2 of those at the start of this fight. We're going to charge the second X Factor, and it's going to come out in a way that Ridley kind of like moves into the trajectory of those particles. And then from there, we essentially need to deplete all of our super missiles into Ridley to do enough damage. And then we need to do a series of charged shots. If you take any damage from Ridley here, you're dead. If you miss shots, you're probably dead. When Ridley's health is depleted down to 0, he doesn't die immediately. He goes into a state where he attempts to grab Samus, and then he'll explode after he either successfully grabs Samus or does 10 attempts and fails to grab Samus. Trying to get him to attempt and fail to grab Samus 10 times is going to be much slower and more dangerous since we're taking constant heat damage. So that's why I jumped into his claws there at the end of the fight. Basically, I was counting how much damage I was doing throughout the entire fight, and then once I knew he was dead, I triggered the end of the fight by jumping into his claws. Energy is still ticking down even while he's holding you, so you need to have enough energy not just to survive killing him, but also getting out of the room and grabbing this extra energy tank here.
And then this will get you back to full, so it's a little less stressful, obviously.
Yeah.
And there it is. Finally, the first boss is defeated, but the stress doesn't end here. Runners now need to leave Lower Norfair the way they came in, and head to the next boss, Draygon. Runners move swiftly, farm enemies, and perform crystal flashes, all to escape the heat of Lower Norfair. And along the way, there are still even more incredible tricks that help make this run possible.
So I'm doing what's referred to as a short charge here. The way that Samus charges up Speed Booster, the game checks a specific frame of her running animation, and if you're holding dash on that frame, then it ticks up a counter, and when that counter reaches 4, it gives you Speed Booster. You can kind of like manipulate the way that you're pressing dash to activate Speed Booster in a shorter distance. I'm doing that here so that I will have Speed Booster entering this next room, and then we're going to do a glitch right here on these spikes. So you can see I crouched after Samus was blue, and she's going to start flashing. That flashing will remain for 3 seconds after the crouch. There is a glitch called Spike Suit. If you unmorph on the frame after taking damage from spikes, 10 frames later, if you use a Shine Spark, it locks the timer so that you have a Shine Spark that you can use whenever you want. That sounds awesome, and it is really awesome, but something that people don't think about in this scenario is that if you can use a Shine Spark whenever you want, then any movement that you would normally do that would activate the Shine Spark will still activate the Shine Spark. For example, if you do a stationary jump instead of a running jump, that will use the Shine Spark. It's very easy to use it accidentally. If you use it accidentally in a heated room, that's going to be bad because you're going to be losing energy that entire time. And if you use it accidentally anywhere else, it's not really dangerous in terms of dying, but you're going to lose a lot of time because we want to save this for a specific spot later in the run to save a bunch of time. Just keep in mind, like all of this movement, none of it looks super flashy, but if even one small mistake is made, we'll lose the spike suit, and that's like the run is over. So
wow.
So we're officially out of Lower Norfair. So that's the end of the hell runs. And I mean, you would think like, okay, the rest of the run is free, right? But that's not exactly true. So we're going to be entering Meridia. Meridia is an area that is almost entirely submerged in water. Water greatly restricts Samus's movement until you have the gravity suit. We talked about how Samus gets different suits throughout the run to, power up her abilities or whatever. I mentioned how Varia suit is locked behind Kraid. Similarly, gravity suit is locked behind Phantoon, who we have to kill after Draygon. Draygon is the boss in Meridia, which means that we have to traverse all of the water areas of Meridia without the gravity suit. The biggest key to getting through these rooms is probably Ice Beam.
That and grapple.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a lot of what's referred to as suitless movement here through the water. The first really cool thing that you're going to see, though, is something referred to as a gravity jump. This tube here, the idea is that there's water on the outside of the tube, but the inside of the tube doesn't have water, so it has normal movement, normal gravity physics, whatever, right? To enter Meridia, you break this tube with a power bomb. After this power bomb detonates, the game won't consider this tube broken until Samus makes an action. So we can actually take advantage of that. We can trigger the glass breaking with a jump. The game is giving Samus the jump properties with normal like air physics, but then they transfer into water physics. What happens is something that is called a gravity jump. So we trigger the glass breaking by jumping, and then we morph, unmorph, and shoot up. And the gravity jump just kind of makes Samus jump really high up through the water there.
Pause. The reason Zeni had to morph and unmorph here is because of that spike suit glitch from earlier. He still has the shine spark saved up, and if he were to aim upwards to shoot the door above him, the act of aiming up would force him to use that shine spark. So instead, he has to do a morph and unmorph trick that allows Samus to aim up without using the shine spark prematurely. This is just one example of the consideration that goes into moving through these areas in the speedrun. And there are tons of tricks like this happening all over the place in order to get through this area without gravity suit.
So here we are freezing enemies in a very specific way so that we can use them as platforms. The other thing that you're going to see a lot of is I'm going to crouch and then jump. Crouch jumps, for whatever reason, give Samus an extra 8 pixels of height.
8 whole pixels, let's go.
And here we're going to use grapple beam to kind of swing through this room, which is really cool. Right there, that was a grapple jump. Similar to the spike suit, if you morph and then unmorph while Samus is still rising after grapple swing, it puts her into a crouching state, which you can jump out of. So you can chain them together where you morph, unmorph, and then jump. So like this. So we're just kind of jumping up through the water. And then coming up here, we're going to freeze one of these enemies. They're called Metroids. We're going to freeze this one in a specific position, and then we're going to jump on top of it. That'll actually clip us up through this platform right here and bypass the normal requirements to get through this room. Now we need to kill Botchwoon. Botchwoon takes 10 charge shots or 10 supers. So we do 1 charge shot and then 9 supers. So that was a good fight. And then right here, this next room is where we are going to use the spike suit. So all of these blocks here in the middle of the room are speed booster blocks. So normally to get through this room, you either have gravity suit and speed booster and you run through these blocks, or there's a hidden pathway that you can traverse with morph ball. That is obviously slower under normal circumstances. And when you don't have gravity suit, it's even slower because Samus moves so slowly when she's being hindered by the water.
I was surprised how much time this saved when Zeni first introduced this strat, and I've been playing the game for almost 10 years, and it surprised me how much time it saved. I was like, whoa.
So how much time this saves varies based on how many resources you have. If you don't have enough resources here, after you shine spark, you have to go back and you have to farm some items, and that significantly cuts into the time save. But it can save anywhere from like 20 to 40 seconds.
So the spike suit saving all of that movement all leads up to this, which is just lets you shine spark through the room as opposed to very slowly maneuvering in that secret path.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha. Wow. And now, speedrunners are finally here, facing off against Draygon. But the boss fight itself is not the only consideration speedrunners have to make. After the fight's over, they do need to leave this area, and this shaft that they fell down is nearly impossible to get back up from. That is, unless they do this.
So there's these turrets on either wall that normally shoot at you, and you can break them, but you can also grapple onto them, as you see here. When you grapple onto them, you take damage. I'm doing this intentionally because we need to crystal flash during this fight, and that sounds funny, right? Because, I mean, we're not taking heat damage, so why would we Crystal Flash during this fight? To get down to this boss room, we had to fall down a very tall passage. We can't get back up that passage through normal means. So we have to figure out a way to get back out of this room. It was discovered that if a Crystal Flash is interrupted, it actually gives you a free Shine Spark. We need that to get back out of this room. You see, I damaged down below 50 energy so that we can use a Crystal Flash. Draygon can give different patterns based on RNG. Basically, it's a 50-50 whether Draygon is going to swoop or goop, which is where she slowly comes into the room and spits a bunch of goop out at you. If you get stuck in the goop, then she'll grab you and she'll pick you up and she'll slap you and do a lot of damage. So right here, I was able to tell that Draygon was going to goop, so we use a Crystal Flash, and then Draygon comes and grabs Samus, which gives us the Shine Spark, okay? So now we're in essentially the same state as what we had with the Spike Suit, so we have to be careful not to accidentally use it early. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to finish this fight with what is essentially the old cheese strat. If Draygon grabs you and then you grapple onto one of these turrets on either side of the room, the electricity will travel through the grapple beam, through you, and into Draygon and do damage to Draygon. There's one more piece to this. This isn't technically required, but it makes getting out of here easier. If Draygon grabs Samus during the Shine Spark wind-up animation, it will actually change that Shine Spark into a blue suit. Blue suits are different in the sense that you can move freely as long as you don't get dash speed. So we have a blue suit now, which you'll see as Samus runs to the left here, she'll have echoes trailing behind her. So it's as if she has speed booster.
Yeah.
But since we don't have gravity suit, it's not blue. So
Blue suit without blue, you know, normal stuff.
exactly. This right here, this is a grapple jump again. It's actually very particular in the way that it works. We're going to swing down kind of onto that corner and bounce back up. That's how we get out of this room. And then this next room, yeah, we can't get back out of here without Shine Sparking out, basically.
It's wild to see all of these like different tricks and glitches all come together to make this run even possible for this route. It's crazy.
The item that we got for killing Draygon was Space Jump, which allows us to, you know, jump repeatedly in the air. So that's really nice. And then from here, once we get out of Meridia, the rest of the game is more straightforward, you know, like normal Super Metroid speedrun style.
So much of this run's consideration revolves around, okay, we got to kill Ridley. That's going to require a lot of resources. And then also we have to figure out how we're going to leave Draygon's room.
And just generally traverse Meridia quickly with no suit. Yeah.
Now with Draygon defeated, this door becomes unlocked, allowing runners to run in and grab the strongest beam upgrade in the game, the Plasma Beam. This is 3 times stronger than Samus's current beam and will help speed up the fight versus Mother Brain significantly. Now with only 2 bosses left till the end of the game, runners take the Forgotten Highway to enter the wrecked ship from behind and face off against Phantoon, the next major boss. This is Phantoon. Everyone knows him. Everybody loves him.
This fight is actually quite a bit easier than like any percent or 100% because you have Plasma Beam, which does a lot of damage. Essentially, a 2-round is free.
Yeah. Phantoon is known as a very RNG heavy boss. He has 3 patterns that are chosen at random, and usually runners aim to defeat Phantoon after 2 phases. The fight is pretty precise because if runners do too much damage too quickly, Phantoon will disappear early, causing runners to miss out on damage during that phase, extending the fight and exacerbating the RNG. Now with Phantoon defeated, runners can finally grab the gravity suit in the upper parts of the wrecked ship. But at this point, all of the water sections of the game are behind them, so this run elects to go suitless from here. And now there's nothing standing between runners and the end of the game, except for Kraid. Normally the first boss of the game, he resides at the far end of Brinstar, which runners quickly get through, using all of their tricks and movement abilities to their advantage, so they can quickly finish him off.
So now we're going to fight Kraid. Usually we fight Kraid near the beginning of the run, so it's kind of fun to come in here with so much more equipment than you would normally have. You would think that Plasma Beam might be helpful with Kraid, but actually it's not any faster to use it. And if you do it in the wrong way, it can actually make Kraid immortal, which is kind of funny. So it's better to just do the normal strat.
Now, with all of the bosses defeated, runners can now enter the golden statue room that blocks the path to Tourian, the final area of the game, and the location of the final boss, Mother Brain. This room only opens up once the 4 prerequisite bosses have been killed, so now it's finally time to enter Tourian and deal with the final obstacle before finishing this run.
The big thing in Tourian is having enough ammo to finish Mother Brain's first phase. You need to make sure that you have enough missiles and super missiles to get past Mother Brain 1. So when you're going through these rooms, killing these Metroids, that's going to be the biggest consideration is how many super missiles are they dropping? How many missiles are they dropping? And is that going to be a problem? After each room, you kind of have to tally like where your ammo count is and then make a decision on kind of like what strats to use going forward to conserve ammo or not conserve ammo.
Yeah, so you're just constantly reevaluating your ammo count and then deciding which strats to do based off of that ammo count.
Exactly. Yep.
Before entering Mother Brain, speedrunners aren't just concerned about their ammo, but also their health. This is because Mother Brain's final attack is scripted once her health reaches 0. And without any suits, this rainbow beam does 6 whole energy tanks worth of damage to Samus. But also, right before the fight with Mother Brain, there's this room, where the baby Metroid from the very beginning of the game shows up. It's all grown up, and it latches onto Samus, and will drain her health all the way down to 1 HP. This scripted event means that runners would have to slowly sit through the cutscene, have their health drained, and then make their way to this room to refill their energy before the final fight. So instead, runners do this.
So this is the baby Metroid. It's all grown up now. We want to skip getting grabbed. For a long time, there was a baby skip that was pretty standard. You would start on the far right of the room and have the baby swing around you counterclockwise. And then a couple years ago, somebody just kind of as a meme asked, hey, can you make the baby go clockwise? And so he just did it as a joke, and it ended up being faster. So we refer to that as Stachio skip, because Stachio Cat was the one who made that suggestion in the first place and kind of labbed it out.
I really love that story so much because this is a strat that's been intensely investigated for over a decade by top runners and tassers, and somebody just like sort of just messing around found out an extremely valuable strat. So I think it's a good example of why people at all levels should not be discouraged from investigating and trying things out.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, speedrunning is a collaborative project more than anything else. My favorite part about speedrunning, genuinely, is the community aspect of it.
I could not agree more. 99%, if not 100% of speedruns are community built. Everybody is building on something that has already been done, basically. Everybody should be encouraged to try to contribute if they want to. So yeah, this is the Stachio skip, as we call it. So we lay a bomb spread here to kind of push the baby down in a certain way, and then we just make the baby rotate around Samus a couple times and jump through. And that's a good like 3 or 4 seconds faster than what people were doing before. And it's not really that much harder. So
I find it more consistent than the old way. I mean, that's part of the beauty of this strat. It's faster and as or more consistent.
It's amazing that optimizations are still being found in a game this old. But that baby skip isn't the last skip of the run. The last thing blocking runners from Mother Brain now are these red walls, called Zebatites, and they take tons of ammo to destroy. Runners simply don't have enough ammo to break all the Zebs as well as break Mother Brain's class enclosure. So instead, they do this.
This is the other thing about having Ice Beam that is really convenient. The game prioritizes Samus's collision with frozen enemies over like terrain for whatever reason. And so what we can do is that red circle, that enemy is called a Rinka, and we can freeze that as we're landing on it, and it will kind of clip Samus into the wall and allow us to go through the red wall there. That's called Zeb skip.
And then the rest of those Zebatites don't spawn in.
Yeah, so, and I think the reason for that was because of the developers only had so many resources to work with like the Super Nintendo's processor and stuff. So I think that was the idea, was they were like, we'll just spawn one at a time to save on, processing power or whatever.
Yeah, there's no way people are going to figure out a way to skip past these. It'll be
right,
fine.
Exactly.
That ends up saving a ton of ammo and time, obviously. And that's it. It's finally time to face off against the final boss of the game, Mother Brain. No more tricks or skips left, just a final showdown before the escape sequence and the end of the game. Or is it? Speedrunners have one more trick up their sleeve to help speed up this cinematic boss fight.
So here's the Mother Brain fight. We need to do enough damage and also break the glass completely in order to move on to the next phase. And then from here, it's 20 charged shots to deplete Mother Brain's energy to 0. Mother Brain can give a variety of different patterns. The thing that's scary about this fight is because we don't have Varia Suit or Gravity Suit, all of Mother Brain's attacks do a lot of damage. We're probably not in very much danger of dying here as long as you know generally how to handle this fight. But if you take too much damage, you're not going to be able to do a glitch called stand-up glitch. So you do still have to be kind of careful here. Without Varia Suit, that beam does twice the damage that it normally would. And then as you can see, Samus stood up and we're able to run around even though Mother Brain is advancing to the next phase here. As long as we're in the air when the baby Metroid comes on the screen, we're going to be able to continue moving around. This is beneficial for 2 reasons. One, you can see that I'm space jumping up in the top right corner here. You can manipulate Mother Brain's head in a certain way to make the cutscene here faster. So that's kind of why the space jumps are happening in the top right corner there. And then the other benefit is we can actually do damage to Mother Brain during this phase of the fight. So we're going to start doing charge shots here. Essentially, it makes it so that we don't have to shoot Mother Brain with as many hyper beams after all of this is done. The last thing to consider here is that the baby Metroid is refilling Samus's energy here. When it gets to full, the baby Metroid is going to detach from Samus and kind of sit in the air like that. And if that happens in a position where the baby Metroid can't take damage from Mother Brain, then that will also soft lock the game. So you have to be kind of careful in your positioning during all of this.
I don't think you want to jump too high when you're doing that hop on the right side, right?
Yeah, if you put the baby Metroid in the upper right corner or too far left on the screen, then Mother Brain won't be able to damage it, and it's just over.
And all of that essentially just like skips the final phase because you're doing damage the whole time during that cutscene.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yep. And then, this is just the escape. You know, if you've ever watched GDQ or whatever, you've probably seen this before. The only real difference here is because we don't have gravity suit, we need to make sure that we don't get stuck in any acid.
Yeah, if you only watch speedruns of this game, you don't realize that in some of those rooms, there is acid that like slowly rises up to kind of like push you to leave the room. But yeah, without gravity suit, if you're stuck in the acid, you're stuck. You can just easily die. And there it is.
So yeah, that's the run.
Fantastic run. I learned so much that I wasn't expecting to learn about this game, which is really, really cool.
My favorite thing about Reverse Boss Order is just how it's a huge showcase of what is possible in this game. And honestly, I think that's my favorite thing about Super Metroid in general is that like, there's so many different ways to play it. If you're bored of playing it a certain way, you can just play it a different way if you want to. Like, you don't have to, obviously, but the other thing about that specific run is it's probably one of only a couple speedruns that I've ever done that I like. Watching it back, like, there's always going to be mistakes and stuff that you could do better or whatever, right? But
of course.
I'm completely satisfied with that run. And I can't really say that about hardly any runs.
As somebody who's been speedrunning a long time, it is very rare that you finish a run and can watch it back and be like, you know what, that's good. I can be happy with that. That does not happen very often, if at all.
Thanks for the opportunity, letting us talk through the run. Zoast, thanks for joining and giving your input.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching this whole video. Post this secret word in the comments to become a member of the Secret End of the Video Club. And while you're down there, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, as it really does help me out a lot. And please check out Zeni and Zoast's channel, as this whole video would not be possible without their help. Also, this video wouldn't be possible without the help of my Patreon supporters. Making content as a full-time job can be quite a struggle, but my Patreon supporters help keep me afloat when working on long projects like this. And I want to give a special thanks to Alex Doe, Henry Davis, Nanoseed Production Company, Microb, Barnabas DeGray, Minus X, Soma Jean, TJ Foster, Atomic Dracula, Suchioto, Kenneth, Jokum Palm, and WJB.